The Stolen Shakespeare Guild performs the works of William Shakespeare, works that he was inspired by, and works that, in turn, have been influenced by the immortal bard himself.
To be honest, I didn't want to direct Henry V. It's a history, and anyone who knows anything about Shakespeare, the first things they say about the histories is, God, they're so dry. And they are, because that's what most people think about them. What my production does is it captures the theatricality without sort of deifying Shakespeare. We all sometimes go to see a Shakespeare show and it's, and it's dry and it lacks emotional content and it suddenly becomes very detached from the audience. I really made the conscious effort to humanize the story. We are trying to encompass a whole emotional arc, and by doing so, we've had to go beyond the script itself. This is a story about so many things: political intrigue, betrayal, money, war. These are grand political concepts that are hard to define as an emotional story. Something that does not exist in Shakespeare's Henry V is flashbacks. And we have 4 specific flashbacks that I think define the 4 most critical moments in Harry's life. And one of the universal truths of good theater, and especially good storytelling theater, is if you're telling the emotional story, then you're telling a good story. So I kept trying to figure out, what is the emotional story? Where is the emotional center of Henry V? And the problem with the emotional center of Henry V is that it doesn't exist in Henry V. It exists in its predecessor plays. We have portions of Henry IV Part 1, Henry IV Part 2, some Richard has even made the text. What is the basic emotional story? Well, it's the story of a boy who lost his father and is still learning to cope with that loss. And those 4 flashbacks help to define moments in the actual text, Henry V, that will give us a glimpse of why he's making the choices he's making and why these choices are so difficult. To go from boy to prince, from prince to king, from king to reformed king, and beyond that, defining himself as more than a king, but as a human being and as a man. And people, I think, will be surprised and excited by the energy and the vigor with which this very young cast brings to the stage a story that is both emotional, historical, epic, and theatrical, but more than anything else, very human.